Hey everybody, it's me Albatross. How are you guys doing? Well, I know by now everyone's heard about the P. Diddy verdict. And I'm here to offer an opinion that's probably not as popular as the ones I've been hearing. Now, once again, this is all my opinion. I don't know any of the people involved. I don't know P. Diddy. I don't know any of the witnesses or victims on the case. So, with all that being said, I think this verdict is a blessing in disguise. And listen, I don't say that lightly, because in my opinion, I don't think he's innocent. That's just my opinion. Like I said, I'm not involved in the situation anyway. So my opinion on that really doesn't mean much. But I don't think he's innocent. That's just my opinion. I'm entitled to it, right? But anyways, that's not the point. Why is it a blessing? Why is this a blessing? Because the jury has shown us, the Diddy 12, as they have been called lately, they've shown us, that society is still not grasping what is happening to people, to women, or either that, or, it's also a possibility that I haven't heard anyone point out yet, that they, let's face it, the jury was not sequestered. And Diddy got arrested because he was tampering with witnesses. So how the hell do we know that him or his kids or one of his associates didn't get in touch with one of these jurors or a juror member's family? They weren't sequestered. They got to go home every night. How do they know what happened while they were at home? Are they keeping tabs on all 12 jurors? One juror had to come out and say someone contacted him. And that was just because he was being honest. What about the ones on the jury that weren't honest? Juries don't really get paid that much, in case you guys don't know. They don't get paid a lot. They definitely don't get paid whatever their jobs were paying them. Even if they were getting minimum wage, they're still not getting as much as what their job was paying them. So, I know no one wants to believe someone would sell their soul and do something like that. But, it's always a possibility. I think we should be open to it. But at the end of the day, I don't want to rag on the jury. I really don't, because I don't really hold them responsible. I don't think it's their fault. There was only but so much they were allowed to see and hear through the whole entire trial. So, they were just going off what they had. Now, you would think that the Cassie video would have been enough, and the receipts and the email her mom, you would think that would have been enough, but apparently it wasn't. But let's face it, there was so much more they could have brought to that trial. That we all know it. There was so much more. What about the woman who have offered to get bullet fragments out of her face to be tested? What about her? See what I mean? So no, I don't think it's just the jury. I think it's the prosecution and the judge. I think they failed those victims. They failed those witnesses, and they know it. They failed them. They coddled the defense. Literally every single piece of evidence they didn't want, the judge went along with. He went along with it. He went along with the defense the whole time. Even the people, and I wasn't at the trial, so keep that in mind. I'm going by other people who were there. So just keep that in mind. But if everything they say is to be believed, it sounds like the defense got by with a lot. They got caught red-handed several times. They got caught red-handed leaking information about jury members to the press, to TMZ. They got caught, that whole jail thing where his lawyers was lying and stuff. They got caught doing so much dirt, and every single time was like, don't do it again. And the prosecution didn't even ask for any repercussions. Just, don't do it anymore. That's all they said. That's all they had to say about it, and they moved on. They failed these witnesses and these victims. They failed them. And I don't think enough people are saying that. And I don't like being right. I said this a while ago, that this is a circus. They're not asking about the kids. They're not bringing up any of the orgies. They're not bringing up any of the co-conspirators. Where are they at? They didn't even get to testify. Christina Karam, TriStar, where were they all at? The ones signing the checks and organizing all this crap. Where were they at? Like, come on. Come on. There were so many people they could have brought in to prove this case that for whatever reason, they didn't do it. I don't know why they didn't do it, but they didn't. They could have. But it's clear that we need to see who our enemies are. And that's why I think partially it's a blessing. And I don't like saying that because I don't like to think about anybody who could possibly getting hurt. What I mean when I say that is watch how quickly Hollywood, and I think a lot of them already have, just welcome him back with open arms, try to kiss his ass again. You know what I mean? Just watch it happen. Watch it happen. And what are you all going to do when that happens? You going to keep supporting these people? You're going to keep looking up to them? Going to keep buying their stuff? What are we all going to do? Like, these questions need to be asked now. Now's the time to ask. Is this what we stand by? Is this what we stand for? We have a lot more power than you think. Maybe he didn't get by in the justice system, but at the end of the day, they depend on us, the normal people that buy their stuff, that buy into all this. We stop doing that, it takes it all away. And he's just another regular pervert, a broke guy doing weird stuff to innocent people. It'll be what it is without the glitz and glamour. Because that's what, it's part of it, I think. I'm sure. You all noticed that as soon as the verdict got announced, the few influencers that were there, that were covering it in a not so pro-Diddy stance, they were kind of, I wouldn't say anti-Diddy, but they weren't up for this treatment, of women and people. Well, you hear that after the verdict gets announced, that there's people out there outside the courthouse attacking them, being belligerent, cussing at them. And this is after they supposedly won. I mean, imagine if they lost. Does this sound like innocent behavior to you? But, like I said, I mean, I was on to I didn't trust this prosecution from the get-go. Even if you forget the fact Maureen Comey is who she is, even if you forget all of that, keep in mind, they had to arrest him because he was there in New York tampering with the investigation. They had to arrest him when they weren't going to at first. They were going to keep investigating him. But they had to. You keep that in mind. You keep in mind that they didn't sequester the jury, and you're really in these kinds of cases are supposed to, when the media is crazy like it is, you're supposed to sequester the jury. That's what it's for. It's for cases like this that are so high profile. But they didn't. They didn't sequester the jury. They got to go home. The prosecution, there were so many people they could have brought in. So many people. The co-conspirators, why weren't they ever charged? Lou Taylor, TriStar, the same people involved in the Britney Spears trafficking case, allegedly. Where were they at? Where's their charges? So, in a way, you can't really blame the jury because they charge them with a RICO, and a RICO is supposed to be with co-conspirators and all that. It's supposed to be a criminal organization, but you've only got this one guy charged. Everyone else you've gotten up here to testify has immunity. They're not charged, and most of the co-conspirators who are the ones actually paying for this, organizing this, aren't even there to testify because you didn't bring them to testify. Why wouldn't you do that? And I just want to leave off with this because it seems to be that there's a lot of confusion out there to the trafficking and stuff. Hollywood's kind of made it something it's not. A lot of people have this picture in their head about sex trafficking, right? They have this picture in their head of like women cowering in the corner, maybe with chains, maybe with dirt on their face and cuts and bruises, quivering, scared, looking for ways to escape. That's how a lot of people envision, like kind of like the movie Taken, you know, like they totally, and I'm sure some of that goes on a little bit, but to be honest, it's so much deeper than that. It's not quite like that, like the way they make it look. Because, for example, pimps, right? I don't think a lot of people understand how the pimp thing dynamic works to begin with, right? If you had someone chained in the corner cowering, you wouldn't even really need a pimp. You would just be the trafficker. You know, usually how these systems are set up, you got like these, and you see, I didn't hear them explain this during court, so no wonder they didn't understand. But you see, you've got the trafficker, you've got a John, and you've got a pimp. They all have different roles. Maybe some of them take on more than one role, but like they're all different roles, right? That was not explained at the trial. That was not explained. And the pimp, the way he works, he keeps them in line. He keeps them obedient. He makes sure they do their part, play their role. Because I'm sure, you know, if maybe a customer doesn't want someone scared, quivering in the corner. You know what I mean? Most of them probably don't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, especially like since most of them are used for porn and stuff like that. Like, they go on camera acting like they love it. See, and it frustrates me because I've heard people I know say this. Well, she said she couldn't wait for the next freak off. Well, yeah, you know what? If I knew someone had that much power over me, threatened my family, threatened anyone I love, I'd be like, I can't wait for the next freak off too. I would. Wouldn't you? Think about someone you love the most. And someone in a position like P. Diddy who seems to get away with this kind of thing. You would do anything to make sure that the person you love was safe, right? I would. There's never going to be like a perfect victim either. And like, you know, I've met a lot of people. I've met a lot of women. I've met a lot of prostitutes. I've met strippers. I've met women who didn't get paid a damn thing. Just did it for the fun. Right? Met a lot of women. Lots of different positions. And I'm not saying one doesn't exist. But I've never, ever, ever, ever in my life met a woman in any profession, no matter how she feels about any of this. I've never met a woman anywhere who has ever said that they liked having trains run on them and being disrespected and degraded every week. That is ridiculous. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a rare case. But all those women who testified in the trial and who were going to testify, like, stop it. You can't tell me that. Like, I don't believe that. I don't. Like, the way they were talking about these women, like they were just like they talked about them like they were animals in heat or something. When they never asked to do this. They didn't set up the freak off. This is what I don't understand. It's like everyone's attacking the witnesses and stuff and their credibility, but they're not the ones on trial for any of this. So why is this relevant? Why did the prosecution let this happen? Why did the judge let this happen? These are my questions. Like, did they let this go on? Call it what you want. Maybe you can say that they tried to stop it, but they obviously didn't try enough. It's supposed to be their courtroom, the judge's courtroom. He couldn't keep control of it. Maybe he should reconsider his job. I'm just giving my opinion, you know? Just saying the vision people have on trafficking is really wrong and misinformed. And I don't know if it's just Hollywood to blame. Maybe people aren't coming out and talking about it enough. And I'm sure that's true. But can you see why now? You see why now? See the stigma? Do you think that women actually want to come out there and talk about how they were defiled and have the people listening think of them in these positions like that, like, and have to do it all just for them to, like, what? No, I believe they either got to the jury or, like I said, we just need a wake-up call. And we need him to show us who our enemy is. Maybe we haven't given him a chance to show him enough. I don't know how. Like I said, I think the prosecution failed us terribly. Failed us terribly. Failed victims everywhere terribly. Not just the ones at the trial, but obviously them, but victims everywhere. They've literally given, whether this jury, this Diddy 12 realizes it or not, they've literally just given predators a somewhat of a free pass. Be like, we don't care about these women. And I'm going to leave off with one more story of a guy I knew. And this is how I know that something like this could happen. Because I've witnessed this happen. It was a guy I used to date a long time ago. He had gotten stabbed like twice. And like both times, the people who stabbed him like got away with it. They never even got a day in jail for it. Both times. And I was flabbergasted. I'm like, what? How does that even... Like, something doesn't make sense here. Like, how does that happen? Did you fight back? Like, what happened? Like... And it all amounted to because the guy who got stabbed had a background of being violent. And because of that, it was okay to stab him, I guess. And that's how they feel about these women. It's like because maybe they were in situations where they, whatever, were adult women, had sex, that just because they chose to do it another time they said, no, I don't want to. They had to do it, because we do it, like, she does it one time. So then suddenly it's okay to force her to do it every other time after that? Like, what's the logic in that? That doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. So, like, they pretty much just said, it's just wild. So it's just like, no, I don't care. Prostitute, stripper, none. It doesn't matter. No one deserves to have that happen to have their boundaries crossed. When someone says no, it ought to be no. They shouldn't be beat down and made to go back, dragged by force. And there was many witnesses that saw the sex worker in the hotel room. So stop playing. Stop playing. There was a sex worker in that hotel room. Hotel manager saw him there. She was being dragged back to a freak off. It was not domestic violence. And even if it was, that's what pimps do. Pimps come in the guise as a boyfriend. Well, you think that a pimp just walks up to a woman and says, okay, I need a woman to have sex for money, and I need her to give me some of the money for it. No! That's not how it works. People are dumb. And this jury obviously was not the right jury. And the prosecutor failed these witnesses. I'm going to say it once, I said it again. And the judge. They all failed these witnesses. They failed these women. They failed them. They left out most of the stuff they could have brought in. Like, they totally failed these women. Making them come in that court, knowing damn well you were going to half-ass that whole case. Half-ass it. Not even hardly put up a fight. When they're bringing up all this irrelevant crap about the witnesses when they're not the ones even on trial, but you're letting them do this? But yeah, I just wanted to end it with that. This is wild, and I'm not happy that I was right about it. But maybe people just need to see who their enemy is. People need to see who their enemy is. And anyone who's okay with that, listen, I don't. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. And it's all my opinion. I could be totally wrong. Maybe the jury honestly thinks that this behavior was okay or, not worthy of a conviction of RICO, even though with the receipt, oh my God, they had so many receipts. They might have dragged it out a little bit and not brought in as much as they should have. Dragged out what the few things they did have. What about Natasha Rubin? Whatever happened to her? And like I said, you notice that all these celebrities were all quiet, probably because they knew. They knew that this was coming, and they didn't want to jeopardize their standing. Just like they seemed to know when R. Kelly was going down. They seemed to know then because they didn't mind talking about him. But yet with this, they were silent, completely silent. Probably because they knew this verdict was coming. So how does it that a whole town seems to know all this before the rest of the world does? Kind of odd, right? But I'm going to leave it at that. Remember, when you buy something to contribute to these people, any of the people you've seen on this screen, not just the Kardashians, anyone associated with Diddy, remember, that's what you're paying. That's who you're paying. That's the life you're paying. People and the people all around them at these parties who knew what was happening, you're paying them too. That's where your money's going. To these people, to their debauchery. These people who don't give a damn about anyone but themselves, and especially not you. That's where your money's going. Can you all live with that? Can everybody live with that? Can anybody who accepted money to do this, can any of them live with it? I hope so, because that's what's happening. But anyways, have a good night.